Hello ladies, and welcome back to another video. If you don't recall, I actually wanted to continue doing this series about, specifically honing in on age and going back to school. Now, this particular YouTuber, his name is Uncle Mike MD, and the title is called So You Think You're Too Old for Medical School. And I really want to continue doing these type of videos. And if you haven't noticed, notice how I'm not specifically sticking to just showing you videos of black women. I'm really trying to get you to understand a real world view, and get you to understand that, yes, us as black women, we're really out here at any age doing what we need to do, as far as getting our education. But also understand there are people from all different walks of life who are deciding that they are going to go back to school and do what they always dreamed to do. So I think his story is really inspirational as well as his video. So let's go ahead and watch.
Hey guys, I got some of your questions. Hopefully I was able to answer them. One person in particular asked if whether or not she was too old to go to medical school, how schools are going to look at her, that kind of thing. Obviously the topic of that, aging and am I too old for medical school, is near and dear to my heart. I wanted to talk about this, share my experiences so far with being older in medical school, and just let you realize it's pretty much a relative thing. If you're asking yourself if you're too old, I mean, how boring would my medical school class be if everyone was 22 and from the same place? With that being said,
And I want to actually comment on that. And this is no shade. Trust me, this is absolutely no shade for my younger viewers, but I mean, he's absolutely right, because I'm going to be honest, like, for me personally, I think choosing to become a physician in my 30s was the best decision that I ever personally made. And choosing to go to medical school in my 30s was the best decision that I could have possibly made. I couldn't imagine going to medical school in my early 20s. I'm just going to be honest about it, because when we talk about maturity and being mentally ready and having real life experiences, you're just able to tackle certain things differently versus at that particular age for a lot of different people. So I do have to agree with him.
after I graduated high school, I left for the Air Force, 18 years old, and my supervisor, my third year in the military, my supervisor and I sat down and he asked me, what my plans were. And I told him I wanted to get out and go to college, and he was shocked because in his mind, everybody does 20 years in the military, and there's nothing wrong with that. It was just not my plan. And he said, "How old are you?" And at the time I was 21. He's like, "You're going to get out when you're 22, go to college, and then you'll be 26 when you're done." And at the time, when 20, 21 years old, it seems like such seems like it's quite a ways away. And I didn't think 26 was too old. With that being said, I ended up getting out and then used the GI Bill and then got an ROTC scholarship, went to college, and graduated when I was 26. I went back into the military as a second lieutenant and did another 4 years, and then I was on the fence. I was at 30, almost 31, of whether or not I was going to stay out and make it a career, or get out and do something else, or stay in and make it a career. So I decided to get out. So at the time, I was living in San Antonio. I had my own house. There was two other guys that lived with me, They could have made a sitcom about our lives. All three of us were captains in the Air Force. All three of us were male nurses. Good times were had under that roof. And one of them went to medical school. The other one went to dental school. And I went to CRNA school. And at the time, the reason why I went to CRNA school is I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I'm almost 32, I'm 31, 32, all the time, I'm gonna get older. This is the safest route. With that being said, I didn't even finish. I didn't even make it for various reasons. A lot of people like to say, well, you're gonna be this age when you're done, or you're gonna be this age when you start. Who's to say we all live to be 85, Like I said in my previous video, follow your heart, chase your dreams. Life's too short. My last week in my pediatric rotation, I was on inpatient wards, hem-onc with the kiddies, and there's kids 8 or 9 years old dying of cancer. Do you think they care about how old they are?
Let me pause this. What he just said right there should really hit home for a lot of you that's watching this video. Many of you I have seen, you feel like you're 24, 25, 26 years old, and it's too late for you to go back and get your bachelor's, or it's too late for you to go back and apply to a dental program, or to medical school, or you really honestly sitting there thinking that you're too old at this point in your late 20s to your 30s. That is too late for you to apply to any type of engineering degree. You are out of your mother-loving mind. And just think of all of these younger people and children who don't even have the opportunity to decide whether or not they're too old to do anything. So if you have a passion for something, you need to go ahead and do it.
I think you owe it to yourself. If this is something that you want to do it. Don't think about your age. If anything, don't think about how old you're going to be. You're gonna get old anyway. Whether or not you go to medical school, whether or not you go to college, whether or not you do this or that, you're still going to get old. We still age. Not to quote some cheesy line in a movie, but all we have to do is decide what to do with the time that's been given us. So with that in mind, so when I didn't end up finishing CRNA school, I was on the fence, what to do with my life, transfer to another program, go to law school, do pharmaceutical sales. I could have done anything. But being a physician had always been my dream. And I think maybe that was one of the reasons why I wasn't so successful in CRNA school, because I wasn't passionate about it. Because it was like an alternative. It was the quickest route. It was the safest route. It was the easier route. So on my 36th birthday, I looked at my situation. I looked at where I was at and where I was going and what I've done so far and where I would like to be in 10, 15, 20 years. So I went back to school. I registered as a non-graduate degree or a non-degree seeking graduate student at a university. I walked into my OChem class, 36 years young, 150 kids under the age of 21. I sat in the back, took notes. And a month into it, I made friends with these great guys that were 15 and 16 years younger than me. But we clicked, we bonded, we had the same mentality, we had the same likes and dislikes. 6 months later, they're asking me to go to spring break with them to San Diego. And I was like, oh, that's so cute, pat him on the head. You go have your first spring break. I've already had several under my belt, thank you very much. So when everything was said and done, and I started medical school, I was 39 years old. And I wasn't even the oldest person in my class. I think the oldest person at the time was 48. And the young.
Let me comment real quick. I do have to say this. Y'all are bugging if you think, you're not going to find 40, 50-year-olds in your programs. Like, these programs are not just filled up with strictly young people in their early 20s.
This person in our class was 20, about to be 21. The program that I went wanted to said at the interview process that they like the non-traditional student. They think it brings a lot to the table, experiences, diversity. You know, in my class, we have the 20-year-old all the way up to the 48, and in between, some of us have healthcare experience, some of us don't. Some of us had 20 years in a different career. Some of us were military. I think it adds diversity to a class if you don't have everyone that's the same. You know, along my life, there's been some key people that I've met that kind of inspired me. I'll tell those stories and maybe it'll inspire you. I was about a nurse for about 2 or 3 years in the military, working in the CVICU, and we got this patient from Air Force Village. Air Force Village is like a retirement home for retired officers. This guy came in, 89 years old, big, thick bottle glasses, shaved head. We took him out of his clothes and put him into a gown, and I was hooking him up to the monitor. He was having chest pain, that's why he was there. The guy was bronzed, the guy was tanned, and I asked him, you know, he had like a short tan line, and I was like, "How are you so tan?" He's like, "Oh, when I garden shirtless," and I just thought that was the coolest thing. 89 years old, and he's in his garden shirtless. I must have spent half the night in that room because he was such an interesting man. He had so many stories. One of the good things about being a nurse and having great patients. I asked him how it was working at this, or living in this retirement home, the Air Force Village. And he goes, "It's cool, except for one thing, all the damn old people." And, you know, he's 89 years old, and he's like, all the damn old people. So it's very relative, you know. He taught me, are you going to get old or are you going to get older? Exactly. You know, life doesn't stop when you're 30. Life doesn't stop when you're 40 or 50 or 60. You make that call. During my psychiatry rotation.
Bingo, you make that call. Like, y'all really sitting here thinking that it's just over and done at 30. Once you hit 30, once you hit 40, you really need to change your mindset.
And the first day when we got our orientation, one of the people that came and talked to us was a psychiatry resident who was 62 years old. He was a pulmonologist for 30 years, was retired for a year, couldn't stand it, and now he's a psychiatry resident. Great story. You know, over my life, I've been very blessed. You know, I've been able to chase a lot of dreams. There's been one or two that I haven't been able to, which is just a fact of life. But in the end of the day, I think you owe it to yourself. If this is something that you really want to do, you need to pursue it. Pain is temporary, but regret is forever. So don't think about how old you are. Don't think about how old you will be. If this is something you're passionate about, put one foot in front of the other. At the end of the day, that's all it's going to take. Put one foot in front of the other. I'm going to end with a quote that I came up with on my own a couple years ago, kind of as a way to kind of motivate me. Life is short, and it's too short not to chase your dreams, and it's long as hell when you don't. I think a lot of you will probably relate to that. I think a lot of you will probably, you know, a good portion of you are maybe a lot younger than me and you think you're too old. It's all relative. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your coworkers. Because if you're a nurse and you're burnt out and you want to do something else, but you're afraid that you're too old or the time, it carries over into your work. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to close 10 minutes. Keep the questions coming. If there's something you want to know about, I'll answer. If I think it's a good topic, I'll make a video of it. Look at my playlist. I attached some songs for inspiration. Hopefully it helps out in your journey. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, ladies, I want to wrap up this video. I think that this video was awesome because I think it's very important for all of you to see different perspectives from different people that don't look like you, that have different backgrounds. You know, this is a white guy who's probably close to his 40s at this point, been in the military, has made a career out of being in the military, very successful at it, a nurse, educated. He seems to have done pretty darn well for himself. Great guy. And, you know, he's making that leap to follow his dreams and go to school for his passion. So you all need to understand that, you know, it doesn't matter what type of background you come from, how old you are, where you are at in life. If this is something that you want to do, you need to make the sacrifices in order to make it happen. And you need to stop sitting around contemplating and wasting time, and stop thinking about how old you're going to be once everything is finished and done. You're going to be that age anyway. So what difference does it make? The only difference that's going to be relevant is you're going to turn that age and you're not going to be what you initially wanted to be. And that's just a fact. So I really hope that this video was a eye opener. I hope that you really resonate with this video. So ladies, again, if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below, and I will speak to you in another video. Bye bye.